O tātou tēnei?
Ai.
Ai. Anō reira, ingoe tātou I tēnei wā. He pāmanga ki te koe mātou I koropiru nei mo I a koe, e kaha koe te tuku mai tō ringa kaharunga I a mātou I tēnei wā. E kaha koe te paramia te huarahi mō tātou I koe nei runga. E kaha koe te manaaki tiaki a mātou I wenei wā. Pāpaingia koe mātou I ke tata tātou ki tō kororiatanga. Nō reira pā, ke kaha koe te manaaki tiaki a mātou ngā wā katoa. Ke kaha koe te manaaki o mātou ne kau mātou kuia. Ui neo mātou I roto o mātou ne wā. Kāinga I roto o mātou ne wā. I roto o mātou nei. Hohi pere ke kaha koe te tangonga mea pinu e pānei runga warāti nei tinana hi ngā roa I roa. Manaaki te koe I a rātai. E pā ke kaha koe te manaaki o mātou. Kaha koe te manaaki o mātou nei whānau, nā mātou nei wahi o mātou nei wā kāinga. Putanoki o mātou nei tamariki, ānei o mātou nei mokopuna. Nō reira pāna hoki te kororiatanga I tēnei, ke tuku mai koe tō ringa kaharunga o mātou nei pokohiwi. E pā, nā hoki te rangatiratanga me te kaha me tau kororiatanga ake tonu. Āmene.
Āmene.
Kia ora tātou, e te rangaturu ki nei e uti. E te matat mai hoki nei tēnei tō tātou nei hui tanga ki rungo ki nei te reo kranga ki tō wāhinga. Ki tō tātou nei kaihanga no reira mihinui nei tēnā ki a koe. Ka tira ki a koutou hoki nei e whakarongo mai ki a mātou e hui mai ki runga tēnei ahuatanga nei. Ano reira tēnā koutou. Ka tira anō hoki nei huri ake nā whakaro ki a rātu kui ate ki tō tārai. E nā e haere ana ki rungo ki nei te rā taho tātou, e te au wairoa rongo mihinu tēne ki a koutou, nā tini aitua, nā tini mati. Pēnei mai hoki nei miha te ki a koutou haere ana ki rungo tō koutou nei haere tanga, taina ti te kainga tuturi e tātou no reira koutou nā mati, a hako no hea, a hako I hea, a hako āhi hoki nei koutou, pēnei ka te miha te ki a koutou haere atu rā. Ka te hoki anō ke nai tātou ki nei te hungora, no reira e te rangatiru e te whānau nei tēnā koutou. Ka tira tātari mai hoki nei mō tō tātou nei kaihautu, tēnā hoki nei whakaahua ki no ngake nei ki a koe e kahu. Koutou mā hoki nei e takoto pai hoki nei kaupapa mō tātou, no reira tēnā koutou, ka tira tēnā tātou nei.
Kia ora.
Kia ora kahu.
Ai. Tēnā rā tātou katoa, anei ahau e tautoko nā mihi kua mihia, ki te runga rawa I tēnei wā o Matariki. Aki a koutou e hara mai I tēnei wā. Koutou e whakarongo mai ki ngā pūro o rātou ngā nā tūpuna I waihotia mō tātou. Ko kahu a hau no Waipapa Mania Poto Taranaki a Ngāti Provo. E noko ana I tēnei wā. So I'm just here to let you know that at the bottom of your screen there are some toolbars. And on those toolbars are two things. There's either a chat or there are questions and answers. You can go into any of those two facilities at any time during this webinar and ask for more or ask clarification from our kai kōrero and share. So nō reira, anei te mihi kia koutou nā koutou I whakamana I a mātou I tā mātou kōrero I tēnei ana.
Tēnā rā koe ka.
Ora.
I introduce myself.
Yeah. So, mātou, I te noi hoki nei te wā mō mātou e witi, kia whakamārama te mai hoki nei ki te iwi no he tātou, ko wai ke hoki nei tātou. Okay? So, mako anō hoki nei tērā. Tēnei hoki nei te mokopuno te tai rāpiti, o te rā maunga kāre neke haere, ko hiko rangi tēnā kōtā o Waiapu ko Ngāti Pro. Tēnā anō ki nei, tai atu ki nei I raro rā, ki te whānau runga mai wahin. E rā, iwi katoa ki nei no te tairapiri, tēnei anō ki hau. Ka tira Ron Baker taku ingo nei. E mahi ana hoki nei hau ke runga tēnei ahuatanga nei, mairano, i tēnei wā ke runga hoki nei te kaupapa o te rauora. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tata.
Ai, kia ora mai tātou. Ko koromi ko tōku ingoa, ko Ngāti Whātua Tūturu taku iwi. Tērā hoki o Ngāti Pūkenga me Ngāti Puru. Tāku nei mahi I kone, ko te haere e hau ki te āwhina hoki ngā āhuatanga e pāna ki wā tātou nei iwi, ngā māwiwi o te hine laro, e rā āhua katoa. Nō reira, amuria e tēnei, ka kōrero anō. Kia ora mai tātou.
Kia ora mai anō tātou.
Kia ora rā.
Ko Witi Ashby taku e ingoa tika e whānau mai au ko Witeria. Nei rā, koe tēnā taku nei ingoa, Witeria Ashby. I whānau mai au I roto kawakawa. Ngāti hine, ngā puhi nui tonu. I tupu mai au raro tō mātou nei maunga motatau, nei rā, raro te pane kochi o taku nei
Kia ora rā.
paia a paki, me te rawaku nei tūpuna pene hainangia nei te tiriti o Waitangi tipene. Ana I reira, koe tēnā tāna nei ingoa. Nō reira ko I taha tapu nei matua no Oromahoe, no Ngāti Kawa, nei rā, he kona rātau e tanuana rāua, taku whae me te me taku nei taku matua, e roko Ngāti Kawa. Nō reira, hui no ki a tātou, nō reira, kia ora mai anō. Mauri ora.
Kia ora Witi.
Kia ora. Kia ora kahu.
She's already introduced herself.
Yeah. So we're here to share with you what we think on a wide range of topics to do with the Tupu Wairua. We're going to start with what has always been ours and always will be in terms of the tangihanga practice. What does that mean now? And how do we maintain that it continues to be a part of our lives? And so I'll start with Whaia Kurumiko. We'd like to share some of your experiences and share what that means. I'll just actually, before Whaia Kurumiko starts, about 2 years ago, my daughter and I were driving in suburbia on the way home, and there was a group of rangatahi clad in mostly red, and alert, we pulled to the side. I told her to pull to the side, and we had a look around, and there was a garage laden with green and black. And I said to her, but they're waiting to go on. They're waiting for our whānau pani to call them. And these were young, you know, they were rangatahi. My daughter's in her 30s, they were young, and he was standing in the middle of the road. So we did the right thing. And then they suddenly moved off the road. I said, they're going to let us pass, because they were waiting for the protocols of our people. And so I contest that our tamariki don't know about the rituals of our tangihanga and how important that is, because they were waiting for the whānau pani, and they knew they weren't ready, so they were waiting, and then they saw us And it wasn't because we were Māori sitting in the car, it was that we actually showed respect to them and waited until they had done what they had to do. But they let us pass, and as we passed the tūpapaku, we did our mihi to tuku our aroha with the whānau pani. So that was only 2 years ago. These are all rangatahi waiting to go on to
3 questions he asked.
to show their respect.
3 times.
Yeah, so I'll let you talk now, Whaia Poromeko.
Ai, tatari e nāna hau, o ngā pātai e hiri ana rātou kia mārama. Are there any questions?
But we should give them something to ask for.
Okay.
Māku tīmata mai, ko pai tēnā kahu?
Well, this is the first time I've ever been on anything like this.
Choice 8.
Oh.
E toru nā kaupapa nei. Tō tātane kaupapa ki te tuku wairua. And minga mai, ki mai huki nei a kahu, o te tangihanga. The tangihanga is a process where that happens. It's one of the 3 processes about where that happens that I know. Every iwi has a process of tangihanga. Every iwi has one. We may have a little bit different way of conducting it, but it has the same goal, the same activities about saying farewell to our loved ones, about welcoming and sharing grief with our whānau, and welcoming and sharing grief with the rest of our whānui and other people who have been part of this person's life and even our lives. Most times now we have it at the marae. When I grew up, there was no other place to have it. Everything was held at the marae. Bit different today, but that whole process of the tangihanga. One of the things about that, about the wairua and about tangihanga, especially for us, every iwi and every area, every rohe, has a process on how these things go home. And if you've been to another tangihanga, you will hear how the tikanga or the process or the kōrero of how that wairua from that or rohe or that marae goes home. Mō mātou o te tairāwhiti. If you have some toto, some blood or some whakapapa which relates to you from the tairāwhiti, then your wairua, no matter where you pass away in the world or in this country, kei te hoki tō wairua ki te wākanga. There's a place at the back of, it's called Tahara, at the back of Te Pui, back of the wai kei tā tau mai whina te wairua ki rungira. Mai reira, kei te piki atu ki runga hikurangi. From there, it goes to our mountain hikurangi. There are 2 parts to the mountain hikurangi, a male side and a female side. Te tihi o Taikihu, that's the highest part, or the tono o Hauku, which is the female part, Perame. Depending on which side the wairua climbs up, on the back of hikurangi, there's this big lake, Tarawhiti, tēnā ki wari. Kei te taha nei, o te roto nei, e takoto mai huki nei te waka a Maui. Maui's waka is on that one side of that lake. Te wata te wairua ki runga, nā te waka, mo te waka e kawi atu ki nei te wairua ki runga tawa, tai atu rāu ki nei ki te reina. That's a process that we have back home. And I know for other iwi and other rohe, it has a similar process. Just not similar to ours, but different places where that organised gathers and how it travels. But when we're talking in te tairāwhiti, pēnei mai. Pēnei mai. So, kia ora. That's perhaps a start, place to start. Mō tātou. So kia ora tata. And all our, if you listen to the waiata-tangi that go associated with those things, they start to talk about those places. What the haringa up there. Takamiri ake koe, te haringa o na wairua ki runga. Tana haere tanga. Yeah. Sometimes a bit difficult to translate these things into Pākehā because they're in Māori in my head and I've heard them. Both, all of us have heard them in Māori, so sometimes it is difficult to really share the depth and the understanding of those things, of these things with us.
Yeah, we do have a question for every one of the panelists to answer around the hā tēnei mea te tuku. Ki roto I tō whakaro ake. So we've got the question is to give your understanding of what tuku is.
Kia ora.
According to Ida.
Kia ora.
Well, there's the two processes here. One is as Ron, Matua Ron, kōrero about a process at our marae, where we do the actual tukuane, the wairua, to send that wairua on its way. And that's a lengthy process. That is a lengthy process. And I think that process continues on for no matter how long that day is, whether it's 2, 3, actually it's about 3 to 3 days. In the days of old, our processes were quite long. They will go into weeks. Even to 3 weeks up to a month.
Months.
And those within a day. Now, when we're talking about tuku wairua, there are two things. One is the one that's based at the marae, where we are all at a home. The one at a home is when a person is about ready to pass. And then and I've done that myself, and so has Koromiko and Ron, Matua Ron and Whaia Koromiko, is that what we do is I'll give you an example. The tuku wairua is basically where a person is about ready to go, and is hanging on for something. Hanging on to this physical world.
Yeah.
So it's up to one of us is actually to sit next to her or him and actually tell them their time has come to an end. Your journey is beginning in the taha wairua. So you send them gently in that will, in that taha wairua. And I've done it quite a few times, and no doubt Matua Ron and Whaia Koromiko has done that too as well. So I'll get them to have a kōrero too as well on this.
Kia ora.
Kia ora wete.
Ai, kia ora mai tātou. Ngā koutou hoki e hakarongo ana I tēnei. To tell my knowing about this, my mokopuna died on the 2nd of November last year. On the 14th of September, I went to his house. And I said, well, today I give you back to your Creator. I give you back to God. And he looked at me, he said, do you mean it, Nan? Because he'd been sick for such a long time.
Years.
Such a long, long time. And I kept holding on to him, saying, no, you don't have to, no. And he was forever in and out of those homes where they care for the ones who cannot care for themselves. And on the 14th of September, I went to his house and I thought, no, he's had enough. I know inside me he's had enough. On the 14th of September, I said, you I now give you back. Today I give you back to God. Well, that evening he was so happy, he was going, yahoo! Now, Iho, you can come and get me now. He didn't care. He didn't pass away till he turned 34. He was 34 on the 20th of October. On the 2nd of November, he passed away. And when he did pass away, I was in Gisborne, and the police rang and said at 10:30 he'd passed away. Well, we made it home in 5 hours back to his house because I needed to get there before daylight. And tuku him properly. And so we did, and as soon as that was all done, just left him there on the bed waiting for the undertaker to come and got on with doing his other things with his papers and making sure that everything was ready for his burial. But in doing that, it's up to the person how long that wairua lingers around. It's up to each and every individual. Sometimes people have difficulty in letting people go. And he's been gone for 7 months now. And e tahi hoki wāku ne whānau, some of my mokopuna and my children yet can't do that. So they're better to go home close to his grave, get up there every day, do whatever you have to do, but let him go good. Because until that happens, they themselves won't come to the understanding that he rā anō ke te haere mai, a day is coming when we will all meet again. It is not forever that we are parted, it's just the pain now in the meantime. So tuku wairua is not so hard. You have to tuku from within yourself, but also the different variances of things that our old people used to go through. And there's so many things that I can talk about. Like I have a mokopuna that on Saturday she will be 1 year old. Exactly 1 year old on the 27th of, she will on 25th of this month, she will be 1 year old. She was the child that was born as my niece was being walked down the road from her house to the marae, and the last karanga that the kaikaranga at the whare was calling, haere mai, haere mai, haere mai. The baby came out of her mother, my niece entered into the whare tupuna. In understanding that, I went to the marae, they told me, he mokopuna I whānau mai tērā taha hoki o te huarai. Oh, that's my mokopuna. When did that get born? Oh, well, no talk about that. Off I went back to the house, asked my son, what time? He said, Mum, on the last haere mai that Trish was calling, baby just shot straight out and I just about dropped her. So I went to the marae and talked with my cousin, who was the kaumātua for them. And he said, hai, what do you want? And I said, my son wants to call his baby after his cousin. He said, all right then, haere koe tikina te baby. So we went home. This is talking about wairua and how the transference of wairua. And so he brought the baby over with a karanga and everything, brought the baby into the whare, and he said, you must answer me 3 times the name of his cousin laying in the coffin. So I did. He asked, ko wai te whaia, and I gave the name, Horiana. Well, what was the other one? He asked 3 questions.
Ko wai te whaia, ko wai te ingoa te pepe.
Oh yeah, but 3 times. Anō. He asked, what is the name of the fire? Horiana, that was the one laying in the box. What is her name? Horiana. And
The baby.
And now the baby's name. What is the baby's name? Horiana. He said, kua tau. Kua tau, te wairua o tēnei, ke roto I tēnei tamaiti. So, you know, that's right here, right now. While the last haere mai, the baby came out and she entered into and the auntie entered into the whare tupuna. And that was wonderful. And never, 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 the kids just cried, the husband cried. And this year we're having her birthday on the day they buried her. So kei te uru pāke mātou e haere ana, te mea tuatahi a muriake i tēnā, ko te rui haere hoki ngā tāngata katoa, e haere mai mo te huri tau o tēnei pepe. So you see, Wairua has many ways of working its things. I mean, that was wonderful. So, kei a koutou, koe nā tāki nei kōrero.
Tuku anō i nei tērā.
Her name is Horiana. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe whaia poromeko. E whaia ke nei he pātai mō Matua Ron. E mua e tērā. So we have our karanga, we hear them on our marae. Hoki wairua mai, hoki wairua mai. And then you said, you also hear haere atu koe ki Hawaii ki nui, Hawaii ki rua, Hawaii ki pāpama. So they are two processes that can happen at the same time. About our wairua, they can go, they can come, and they can go, and they can come. And there's no confusion there amongst those who are kainga hui. But this is he pātai mā Matua Ron, e pāna ki taua āhuatanga o te tani whārā a te mata mōmori, whakamōmori, me pewhi tērā o te tūpāpaku, e hoki ki te wā kāinga, ki ngā marae, ki tōna marae ake, ki tōna ukaipo, ka aha te whānau. So we just have a question here for Matua Ron around our loss of life, and the tūpapaku belongs with the ukaipo and the whānau, and there's been some changes there, radical changes that have been brought in by modernisation. So we'd like to comment on that, Matua Ron.
Kia ora kau, and tēnā koutou. E toro nā kaupapa kei rota tēnā. The first one is te reo karanga. Often we miss the knuckle of the mihi because we're listening or we got other things in our mind. If you're the kai mihi, your business is to listen to the karanga. Kei roto tēnā, tahotanga tō mihi.
Kia ora.
Often we have sitting on the pipe, but we're doing all these other things. Going around in our head, we're looking around, we're seeing, we take a look at what my uncle grower said, you need to listen. Ki te ia, e whakaeke mai hukine ki rungo tō marae, kei roto te karanga tēnā. You need to listen to the ear and how the words are laid down in the karanga. Te ihi on that, because that's your mihi, your reply to that. And it is particularly important when such a thing as whakamōmori happen.
Aye.
You need to listen to the ear o te karanga, kei roto kei roto te karanga. If you miss it, you miss the essence of the mihi ki te wairua. And a lot of people do that. And consequently, it creates a difficulty amongst the physical or the kōrero that happens over what's going to go down. What's going to go down. We have some of these other tikanga to go with it as well, but how we should deal with such a situation. And that is particular to every rohe, every iwi. We sometimes have different kōrero with that. We do have a couple of, not so much with whakamōmori, but the first kōrero I heard about being something different for that was this tohunga back home in Mahia. And he was so tapu, and people were so frightened of him, that in wā e matana te grower, they buried him outside the urupa. And they buried him standing up. Because they didn't know how to deal with the tapu that belonged with him, and the kranga, and how to send, because they taratu whakao. He was not a normal, just like the rest of us. Tōna mauri, tōna wairua nei, anano hoki nei, no tau tabu, no nungake, no te wahinga. We are mere mortals compared to what was with him. So they buried him outside the upa, or outside, away from others, the rest of us. And that was sort of an old corridor from home. And we brought that in sometimes also where we had this place and space where our thinking was, because we didn't look after what had happened to that person in whakamomori anō hine, that they would be different than us. So consequently, we would put them in a different place, not with the whānau. But that became a blame game. Yep. Became a blame game on, you didn't look after him, why didn't you ask us? Because, and really it was the people, the whānau themselves not wanting to own the part that they didn't look after, didn't add their piece in there somewhere as well. Because it takes a village, and the village is everybody, not just the family, or not just the people on the pipeline, it is everybody. So everybody's got a part in this stuff, in these things as well. And it became a difficult thing for us. We have had at home, where we put the body outside, but we've had them, we put them on the marae, and had a corridor over that. But again, it became a physical thing. To me, I go back to what the Crow said. Whakarongo mai, ki te ihi, the nako, ke roto, te reo karanga, e whake eke mai ki runga tō marae. If it's your mihi, ke roto ngene te tō mihi. We need to listen again to what's bringing our whānau home, ki tū kaipo, because we're missing the mihi. And we're getting more involved in this, tying up ourselves in this physical response and a blame game. Sure, we might have to deal, and we don't now deal with what has happened. We start asking for peace be with us. Instead, we need the peace be with us after we dealt with what we needed to deal with. In our corridor, we would talk about that quite openly, about what had happened and how we were going to deal with it, how we were going to fix it, and how we were going to help somebody through these things. Instead, we think that God's going to help us, and He will. But you have to do your bit in this first. And that's part of that tangihanga process. And often we shy away from that now. We don't get involved like we used to. Where everybody was in the room. Everybody had to say, everybody. Half our people are running around outside and they're taking up these things away home from them. And what they're saying is not ke roto te tangi, is ke wahoraki. And it's not a healthy thing to do. The tangihanga process and these processes were there as a wellness structure, and it was helping us to cope and helping us to handle and deal with the situations that we present, including whakamomori. Including whakamomori.
Tēnā koe Mataron. Now we've just had this rāhui around COVID-19, and with the government saying the kawanatanga saying this is how tangihanga should be. And they have chosen to me waiho, e te tere, e te ki mai kau taiho. There's a question here around for Matua Witi around the rāhui and the kawemate and the processes that have made us who we are in terms of our whānau and our loss. Can you give us a commentary on that, Matua Witi?
Kia ora.
I think that first off and foremost, I think that with the COVID-19 this thing has come upon us. And in a way that that the Crown has excluded us from the discussions.
Of course. Kia ora, bro. Kia ora.
Excluded us about our discussion. They decided to actually to go ahead and
Set a precedence.
yeah, and put this thing on us.
That's right.
Because the thing what this is quite sacred to us. Our tangihanga is quite sacred for us.
Kia ora. Kia ora.
The sacredness of this is basically to do what our tupunas did from the time of the beginning to now, is to give the proper respect and to farewell our people in that way.
Yeah.
When the Rahui was, and we were told that there was only an amount of people that could attend tangihanga. There's also one of the things that dear to my heart, and no doubt that dear
Kia ora, brother.
to our panel here, is not being able to be there at the hospital with our whānau.
Aye.
Ke tukua nei te wairua o tō tātou nei, to let their wairua go. Especially us as whānau being at the bedside of our loved ones.
Yeah.
So that was kind of forced on us, without no negotiations. And the thing is about this, is that they don't think that we have the capacity.
Aye, to think. That's right.
Kia
They
ora,
don't
brother.
think that we have the capacity to think for our own. And we know this because we know what this has done to our people. Turn of the century, our people have died from the thousands.
Yeah.
After the war,
Kia ora.
people died. The thing. So we are the ones that know, and we are the ones that know the best for our people.
Kia ora.
And to be told that it actually flies in the face of our tikanga.
Aye.
The thing is that the thing is about talk to us. We can manage our people. We can distance ourselves. We can have that korero along amongst ourselves, but don't force things on us.
Aye.
So that is my that's my korero for that one.
Kia ora, brother.
Keep it
Tēnā
short.
koe, Witi. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe Matariki. Koromiko, he kōrera no tāu e plana ki tēnei kaupapa?
Aye.
What he was talking about.
Yes. No, e tautoko ka hana hau ngā kōrero e puta mai a Witi. Because we never died from COVID-19. Rātou I mate ai, they died from old age. There was no Māori that died during COVID-19. That's why kore rātou I rapa ai I runga I te paua ka whakaata. Nā te mea ka hore tātou I mate. So what the hell? Witty is absolutely correct. Who are they to put their beliefs on us? We already know. We already know. And he iwi mohio ki te chaki te wairua o tēnā o tātou. We already know that. Rātou, nā tērā no I te rāne. Ka whakahoki o mai etahi hoki o kone, mai I tā wāhi, ki katoa tīmata no te COVID-19. So, looking at all of that, koe nā te take e tautoko a hau ngā kōrero a Witi. Ko wai ke rātou ki te tauaiwe nā tikanga I rungi a tātou. You think we're dumb, we don't know how to look after each other? Mohi o tātou te iwi Māori. Mohi. Koe nā.
Ai, tēnā koe. Just going back to during the First World War, my mother was quite young, but she remembers they had a huge loss. Ngāti Porou had a huge loss, and many of their boys were left overseas. But she does remember when they came back, and she said she never heard it again in her lifetime, the deep sorrow of everyone as the hoia returned to each marae. And it was the saddest sound, she said, but it was one that she would always treasure because she knew ka mama ka au e. But it was also an acknowledgement of those who didn't make it home and were left on the fields of other countries. But ko te wairua tonu, kia maumahara i a rātou. And so that was for them a very, for the hoia that came back, and the whānau pani and those who were still e ora ana tonu, that was their way of the, maintaining the ko te wairua hoki, i arahi ana i a rātou, e whakaora ana i a rātou. And even now, there's not too many of my mum's age group alive, but it's like yesterday, it's like yesterday. So when they tuku te wairua, ka hoki mai anō, ka hiki ngā roimata. So those are processes, those are ways that those are tikanga that we use continually kia hita wairua o tātou. So we uplift ourselves by remembering, by acknowledging. So the kawemate is still still a much acknowledged tikanga in terms of ka hoki mai na whakaaro. And I just want a question around this time, Matariki, because Matariki has got a few meanings, and one of the ones we continually hear today, ko te huinga o te wairua, the huinga o te wairua. So happily saying that this is a time where all of us gather, and we're talking about ko rātou kua wihi. So just a comment from everyone, please, Ron, Witi, and Koromeko, around that whakaaro of the huinga o na tūpuni.
Kawemate has always been part of our tikanga. Mairano. We've, and it's related to whakapapa. And we've always, there are some times when some whānau, some iwi don't have an opportunity to come and kawe tō rātou nei tangi, ki te tangihanga. And they would ask that the mate be brought back to their marae, to their people, to their whānau, and it helps to keep the whakapapa people linked into things as well. So that's one part of it is covered the kawenga o ngā mate, especially with the whānau, maintaining the whānau links back to the whakapapa of the person that's passed away. So that's one part of it. Our brother Witi might have another part.
Yeah. I think what all for us is basically a remembrance. There are two phases. One is that if a person out belonging to your hapu or whānau died elsewhere. So what happens is that it's to the year that we bring that koe mate back home. Even if the person, the reasons being that it's the person that couldn't come back home and then buried in another part of the country. So our koe mate is basically a year, and then we bring the whānau back from wherever they are and bring them back home, and we celebrate, we remember them. In the old traditional way of thing, there is especially in Whangarei, where I come from, there is a wahitapu not very far from it. It's called Ruarangi. If anybody's familiar with the Ruarangi,
Yeah.
in the Ruarangi, they got some ana there, where koiwi are especially notable ngāpuhi rangatira are buried in those caves.
That's right.
And so what happened there is that they, in remembrance that over a period of time, 5 years I think, or 10 years, they brought those bones out, ngā koiwi. They brought those koiwis out and they put them all on the field. All in the field. And what they did with the koiwi was that what they did is one is the remembrance of them. And ka horohoroangia ngā whiu is scrape the bones.
That's the one.
And what happens is that they did that quite often. And it's actually where the horohora school is, and the place that they call that is
Kia ora, so they called it that.
Yeah, they called it horohora, in remembrance of that particular is of that taking off all the koiwi out of the cave, bringing them down there and celebrating those notable chiefs that were buried there. And we do it in this day and age, we do it differently.
Yeah.
We do it with photos. With photos and remember them yeah, so that's my throw on that one. That's just a wee bit of part of the history of that one.
Ngā mihi. Ngā hua he ori te ke e witi. Koina hoki tāku nei mōhiotanga. I tēnei wā, mō te matariki I rongo e au. Because you know, mōhio koe, I roto I ngā pui ka ore matariki I tā mai ki a tātou. Heck, I never heard of that word, ko puanga ke. Never heard of matariki. You remember, Witi? Hore kau ke matariki I tā mai ki a tātou. E hara ke wena te ingo ngā whetu, ko te puanga ki a tātou. Because this is a new year, the remembrance of everyone who has passed in that whole year gets brought out today. Tēnei marama, I te wā o te puanga. Ka hore a te matariki, tino mamai hoki tanga I te hakarongo I tēnā. Ko tēnei ke wā o te matariki, nā wai hoki tēnā matariki.
Well,
you know, so I do understand that this is the time, because I remember as a child, there were 7 men used to sit in our whare. My grandmother cooking kai, her and her eldest son, my mother's eldest of the family, but I would be the only female sitting on my grandfather's coat between his knees. Whitu hoki o rātou ngā tangata. But one time, you know, I'd go off to sleep because roa ke te po. Hore kau ke he tangata e kōrero ana. We only had those pump-up lamps and they didn't want to waste the kerosene. So ka noho I rote te pauri. Ka puta mai te tahi kōrero. Hey, from one end of the whare. And you hear way down the other end. Heha. And then, I rongo koutou I tēnā. Heha tērā. Kei te hiko I tonu ngā whetu. That's all that I do remember. You know, the stars are starting to walk around. Well, that was when I understood ko tēnei ke te wā o te puanga. e harake te Matariki. So hey, it doesn't matter, we still got a name for it. This is a beginning of our new year. I tēnā, ka puta mai ngā ingoa, te tahi o rātou. You know, only 7 men, but they all say the name of theirs who have passed in that year. Kia mau mai ki te wāhi kotahi, I roto I tēnā, ka tae ki te whakarere I a rātou, te wairua hoki ngā wairua o rātou. And then they tell you how that we have to pull all the jumpers undone because it's going to be a cold year. They tell you. It was in that time, I remember this time sitting in the whare at our marae as a four-year-old kid, because that's where they taught me, they give me a smoke to smoke. So kia kore au I ngaro ngā mōhiotanga o Auara.
Tēnā koe whaakoromipo. Nā mātou pē o tainui ana ko te paki o Matariki e tū ana I tūranga waiwau. Koe rā te take pēa. Kia koe o koutou tātou tata ki te mutu te wā. Me pewhia tēnei āhuatanga o te hākari o te kai. Kia whakanui hoki a Matariki ki te whakahui. Nui hoki nā āhuatanga nā wānanga kapo o tātou. So we're really close to our time, but just a comment on the place of kai, of hākari. I know we're going to have a hākari after this. But nā tātou huki tērā, so if you can get a comment about wā ka noho tahi, ka kai tahi, ana ka piki te Māori, ka piki te wairua.
Kai has always been a wonderful part of our tikanga. It's always been something we have enveloped and used as part of helping us settle things and come to terms with the events that are happening of the day, and it's in a way of celebrating us as whānau, as people, and the delicacies that belong to that particular area. We don't have toiroa, for example, back on the coast. We don't have toiroa. We've got plenty of other things, but toiroa is from up here. So when you come up here, you would be expecting to have, up north, you're expecting to have some of the toiroa, some of the delicacies from that place. We've got a few tunu, a few crayfish back home and different things as well. But it's celebrating, we have different names for things. We call it parinoa, a beautiful parinoa from home. They call it karinoa up this way, up further up. But this time of the year, it's most of the kai has all been harvested and settled, and we would the only thing we would get from Tangaroa would be the run or the mullet that might, or the runs or the fish that comes today, or catch the tuna, but a lot of our stuff we would have processed and have from the harvest times of summer. Even our kumara we would have from the rua and those sort of things, but a way of celebrating and a life and celebrating us being together. That was really part of it. And also the whakangā wari uki nei nā watanga ki roto tangata. That's one of the wonderful assets or taonga that Kai te Hākari does, especially at Tangihanga, especially at other, and even at times like this where ka mahara tanga uki nei. Ke whakangā wari uki nei te hi ki roto tangata. Ki mai uki nei te mauri o te kai, ki ngā wari anu uki nei tae.
He ori te tangu nei kōrero pāna ki tēnā, because it's a way of settling the wairua. What is sad for us today, we have to go to the food market and buy it. He rā, kua mahu e ke au a wā ia e nei. Ki katoa ngā mara, te kai, ki katoa ngā wai I te kai. I aia tonu nei, nothing. Tata no ko pau te hauke o roto te kaipara. Pērā no I Pukenga, I Manaia. Pērā no ngā wāhi, tata no ngā wāhi katoa. They've either built us out and starved us out. So Yes, we can talk about the remembrances of those things. But today we have to go to the food market because our waters don't hold the kind that used to be for us. So anyway, koina, I understand, but sad for us today.
Tēnā kōrua. So before Matamuti has a closing kōrero and karakia, I just wanted to kia koutou nā kai whakarongo. Ka hono tonu kia koutou, kai a mātou koutou I mera me era atu. Mena he wānanga anō ka tuku kia koutou nā te hona tono. So before Matua Witi gives us final kōrero and karakia, I just want to thank all those who joined us this morning. And whose emails we have got, and we're going to stay in contact with you. And so we will let you know when we're going to wānanga again. We might come out and see you with all these beautiful people this time.
Kia ora.
And we'll keep in contact with you.
I just got one more thing to say.
Kia ora, brother.
One of them, I've just got a text from Eva Rose Toya, who's saying, what is our view on cremation? And I'm just in the process of emailing. I'm not the fastest of people with a keyboard. It's kind of like the one finger thing. So for you, Eva, I'm in the process of actually writing to you about the questions you ask about the tangihana, especially around the cremation. And I'm just going to be very quick, and then I'll close it with a karakia, if that's all right, go. One of the things that I wanted to say is this. Is a lot of this is a forever changing world. I know most of our kaumātua frown on the idea of cremation. It flies in the face of tikanga. But however, a lot of our people are opting for cremation, especially for those ones that are living in Australia, and because they want to come home. But the cost of bringing them back is phenomenal. So people are opting for that. So I think what we have to do is actually have a look at the changing world that we're in. And of course, because one of the things that I want to say is basically, I'm more concerned about the wairua. And this is a part of the tuku wairua. And we are, letting them go into the taha wairua. So that's more important. More of our my concern. What our physical body is. That's why we got so used to being buried or in caves or in trees, and all of those types of stuff. That this was a new way. So I'll get back to you on that one, Eva Rose. Hopefully that will answer your question.
No, tika brother.
Yeah. So ke te mihi atu nei ki a tātou e kau. Ai. Te mihi atu nei ki a kourua fire on. Ai koremiko maturon ki te mihi atu nei ki a koutou.
Kia ora, brother.
Kia ora, Witi.
Kia tātou tēnā.
Ai, kia ora, Witi.
Tātou ira.
Hoino, tēnei ki te tuku atu nei. I wish we had a longer time with this, because this is something that I love.
Yes.
So without further ado, I think that we kapia nei tō tātou nei hui tanga rofo te wairua tanga o a tātou nei mā tupu nei titino mai nei ki a mātou. A puta noa ki te kanahui o tō tātou nei matu nei te ranga.
Tautoko.
Kei pā mai tāna ringa kaharunga o mātou nei pokowhiwhi e tēnei wā. Anō reira ino e tātou. He pāmana ki te koe mātou e koropiku nei mui a koe. Manaka te mai koe mātou i tēnei wā e haere ana i mahi ana wā tātou nei mai. Tuku mai koe tō ringa kaha nungi a mātou e koropiku nei mui a koe. Hapai ni a mātou ke tata tātou ki tō kororia tanga e pā. Manaki te mai koe, wa mātou nei o mātene whānei. Putano ki wene o mātei I roto ngā hohi pere katoa, putano ki roto o mātene wā kāinga. Ke tuku mai koe, ka wairua tangarunga ia
Thank
rātou.
you, Ihoa.
Ke pā mai tō ringa ki runga o rātene mga kau hine ngaro wairua. Mō reira pāramana ki tio mai ke tata tātou ki tō korori tanga. Ke mātai tēnei hi tuku nei ngā whetai ki a koe rā, ke tuku mai koe tō rangi Māria, runga I a mātou I tēnei wā. Mana ki tio mai koe I a mātou I haere nau I roto o mātou nei mahi I pā. Nō reira whānau hoki te rangatira tanga me te kaha me tau korori tanga ake ake tonu. Āmene.
Āmine, tautoko.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
Tēnā koe kau.
Tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koe kai.
Lovely. Now I'm going to go.